Hey, so this is my Harmonetta. It recently broke, so I had to do a repair on it. And I remember when I first got the instrument, there was a lot of repairs that I needed to do. And there was not a lot of resources on how to actually carry out those repairs, so I figured I'd take the time to make a little video on how you would do a repair for this issue. So essentially what's happened is the buttons were not working on some of the keys, and I guess this just happens every once in a while just due to the nature of the mechanism. But all you have to do most of the time to fix it when it comes to the control mechanism is just to remove the button, which can be really bad if you mess with the valve crook system up here, but it's a pretty painless repair if you actually just go through the easy route. So here's the video on how you do that, and then we'll have some more videos on the Harmonetta in the future. So here is step one of removing a button from your Harmonetta. So here we have our springs, so you can easily remove those just by unlatching it from here. So pulling it out and then pulling it up and out. Then you put it in your little jar of pieces. The next step would be to take your pliers. You'll see a little pin in here. There's a flanged end and a rounded end, or a smaller pointed end. And so you want to take your plier and push on the smaller end, so that way you can push the pin out. You might have your hand. There you go. Nice little crack. And that comes out just like that. Let's do another one. So it wasn't a fluke. And there you go. That one's out too. There you go. It's very important that you have some kind of screen in here, so that way you don't lose all your little bits and pieces, because it can be quite a pain. This one might be a little trickier. There you go. Okay, so just like that, we have all of our buttons out. And so we can go to the next phase, which is actually removing the buttons. So now that we've removed all the pins, we're just going to take off our little paper silencers, I guess you could call them. They just prevent the buttons from making a loud noise whenever they return. There you go. So just like that, you can see the buttons already popping out pretty easily. There you go. Helps to have a picture of the keyboard before, so that way you actually know what you're doing. And then just like that, we have our buttons properly removed. So as you can see, we have the buttons removed. So now all we have to do is put the buttons back in over top of the control rods, and we'll be in good shape. So I've concluded the repairs. So as you can see, our F keys work now, and so do our C sharps. So that's perfect. Let's just see if we can pinch that in a little bit. Yeah, they aren't in perfectly, but I mean the tolerance on these parts from the like 70s, 60s. This one's from, it's got 5/8, 1/5. So I'd assume, I don't want to say the 50s, but I'm assuming it's a pretty old version, and it's got the German keyboard, which has the white rings. And also, well, actually this is later production because it has the white rings, but it's got H's. Anyway, so now I press the F key, and F's are coming out. So the next step is just to put the springs back on, and here's a time lapse of that. And then so here we can see all of our springs function, and you can see that they just serve to help return the button once you press it. And the whole mechanism is actually really neat, and also a pain to repair. So I wouldn't mess at all with the crooks or the control rods or even the reeds. Avoid it if you can. But the button removal is pretty simple, and yeah, same thing with the valves. So we finished our adjustment, and you might have notes that are playing, something like that. So you basically just find wherever the note is, and you'll unscrew one of these little screws, and you don't have to unscrew very much, and then you just find wherever there's one with a bit of play, like for example here, and then you'll either push it down, you'll smooth it, or push it forwards, and then you'll screw it back down, so that way it's basically flush with the whole thing, with the manifold. So there we go, that's done. And then we just tighten up, I already unscrewed it. And then you should really get 3.5 millimeter hex wrench. So we have our calipers here. We can measure that. Yeah, so the ideal tool for that would be a 3.5 millimeter hex wrench. But you can use tweezers, that's what I do. So while you have your instrument apart, you can take time to replace. I had a really bad foam padding underneath, so I replaced that with some felt, taped it down. I also replaced the grill with something metal, so it just looks nice and fresh. And that's an easy repair to do, or not repair, I guess adjustment. And then I also put some tape in between all of the seams, and so that just allows a better seal, because there's kind of a bit of play between the two cover plates, because each cover plate is just held in by 2 screws. Where's my screwdriver? That's not going to be sufficient. Yeah. So, and it's very important you don't lose these 2 screws. So here, let's turn the angle a bit so it's more visible. So there's 2 screws here and here, and it's very important that you don't lose those, because they are very hard to replace. They're a very specific shape, and yeah, you'd probably have to re-drill the and re-thread the body, or the frame, which I'll show on the other side, and so you can fit some new screws in. You can also take a little bit of paint, which is what I've done on the Honer logo there, just to make it fresh. And then I used a bit of car wax on the brass exterior to protect it from scratches, even though mine is pretty banged up to begin with. And also just gives it a nice little shine, which is nice when you're on stage. So now that it's seated, you can put the keyboard back on. So again, I've done a similar thing here with the valve. So I actually have a bit of fiberglass underneath and then the metal, and that's just to protect the valves if for some reason they ever start rubbing against. So make sure everything's seated properly, and then we'll be in good shape. So last screw there, or is that first screw on the top side? And you can see here I've repainted the Harmonetta logo. It was quite scratched off when I originally got the instrument. Perfect. So 6. So now you can just play whatever you want. So something like. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. More videos soon.